So we're back again with part 1 of a new build series, and as you can probably tell from the title and the thumbnail, this is going to be a Stratocaster. So we'll just bring it in now and we'll show you all of the components that we're going to be using in this build. So taking you in to show you the components now, and we'll just start with the wood. So we've got some poplar here, and that's going to make up our body, and this is going to be sprayed a solid colour, so we're not worried about how the poplar looks. It has got some little small knots and inclusions in the wood, but we're not too worried. And for our neck, we've got some maple here, and we'll be cutting this blank off here, getting rid of this nastiness. And you can see we've marked out for 2 necks here, but because of the thickness of this wood, we should actually get probably 4 nice neck blanks out of this. So that's going to be good. And we've got some maple here. Again, this has got some bird's eye in it, and it's nice and thick, so we should probably also get 2 fretboards out of this. And then with our hardware, and we've got some black lock and tuners here. Again, these are just parts we had lying around that we're going to use up. And we've got some roller string trees, some black Strat buttons, and we've got our neck bolts and ferrules. Again, not using a neck plate as I'm not a fan. And we've got this preloaded scratch plate here that we've had knocking around for a while. With this year being the way it was, as I said, we're just getting rid of some spare parts we have lying around. And we've got a black output jack. And we've got a black hardtail bridge. So this won't have a vibrato unit in it. This will be hardtail. So as usual, we'll take you through as much of the process as we can. And we'll start off by milling down our wood to get our body blank ready. So first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to mark out our body. And probably as you've seen us doing with some of the other parts before. And we're going to use this long straight edge here. It's got some nice straight grain, and it's nice and flat and smooth. So we're just going to be marking out our body roughly here, and then flipping the template around to make up the other side. And then we can just cut the wood down and glue it together. So we've got a few kind of nasty knots in this wood and that. So unfortunately we'll have to be slightly wasteful with the wood. We're going to mark here for this side. And then instead of immediately flipping it around, we're going to be moving the piece down about 4 inches or so, and that just helps us avoid some of these knots we've got here. We don't mind them on the inside of the body, but if we do it too close, some of them are very close to the edge of the body, and we don't want any problems or anything with them chipping out where they are. So as we said, we'll put our template down along our center line, and once again this template is from Guitars and Woods in Portugal, and it's absolutely fantastic. We're delighted with it. And we're just marking around, as I said, to make our first half, and then flipping the template around, again leaving a bit of a gap to make sure there's no knots near the edge. And again with that in our center line, we mark around, and we'll just take it in and show you that now. So here you can see we've marked out the first half of our body, and again we're avoiding these knots. Now we don't mind them when they're on the inside of the body, because it shouldn't affect things too much. And again we've left this gap here so we miss out on these knots, and by pushing it down we also miss out on these knots, which may have been slightly inside the body had it been further down. So although it's only a small amount, it is kind of wasteful, but it's not too bad. So and then we'll also cut this section off the end. So what we'll do now is we'll mark that up, and we'll put a straight line across there and a couple of straight lines across here, and we'll just go over to our chop saw and we'll take all that away. And while we're doing that, we'll also chop away some of the excess wood from the neck blanks. So that's our wood off the chop saw, and we've now got much more manageable pieces. So you can see we've got the 2 halves of our body here, and we've also got our 2 neck blanks drawn out on this. We're not going to go to the bandsaw with this just yet, because we're going to use these flat edges to make sure we can route our truss rod channel. nice and parallel to the sides there, and it's just a lot easier when we've got a bigger piece, so that the router can't wobble or anything like that when it has a nice big flat surface to work on. So what we're going to do next is, straight away, we're going to get these two halves glued together. So we're just getting ready now to glue the two halves together of our body blank, and we just have some clamps ready on the bottom here, and then we'll be able to drop our two parts in, just like so. Then we have some more clamps to go on the top, and then we have some clamping cauls to go on the top and bottom either end to keep everything nice and level, and some more clamps for there. And these clamping cauls have some sellotape or packing tape on them, so the glue won't stick to them when we put them in place. We've got lots of clamps, and we're just using Type Bond 2 here. And we've got some water nearby, and we've got some rags and stuff for wiping out our glue squeeze out. So we'll just stand our two halves up again, and we'll just get a nice amount of glue on both surfaces, and we can start to spread that around then. So that's all our glue in place, so we can now lie down both halves of the body. And we just push them together and just rub them back and forth ever so slightly. It just helps them kind of grab onto each other and stick together a little bit. And then we can just start to tighten up our clamps just a small bit, just until we know everything is going to be nicely aligned. And you can see we've got a good bead to squeeze out all through the middle, so we've got a nice tight joint at the moment. So what we'll do next is we're just going to put our clamping caul on the top and bottom, and we're not tightening up everything completely just at the moment. We're just leaving it sort of hand tight until we have all the clamps in place, and when we do, then we can just tighten up everything then. So that's our body blank all glued up, and we'll just leave that overnight before we come back to it. And our next step is we're going to start taking a look at our neck and fingerboard. So we're starting on our neck now, and we've got our maple billet here, and we've just marked out two different necks on this. This piece is actually thick enough we could get 4 necks out of it, but we're actually going to be using it for another project as well. So we're going to cut it in half, and we'll use one half for our 2 necks, and the other half, as I said, is going to be saved for a project that will be coming later on this year. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it over to the bandsaw and resaw this right down the middle to get it in 2 halves. Wish we had a table saw to do this more quickly and more safely, but we're just going to quickly put it through the bandsaw, and we'll bring it back after that's done, and we'll start to lay out our neck properly. So we've got our piece of maple split in 2, and it's very rough. Bit of a job on the bandsaw trying to get through it. And we've also got 2 other pieces of maple here we're going to use for fretboards. So we've got our planer thicknesser set up here. So we're going to pass these through, and we'll tin this right down to about say 20-22 mil or something like that, and the same with these down to about 5 or 6 mil or so. So we'll just pass them through a good few times and get them down to the thickness we want, and then we can start to draw out our neck on this, and we can start to mark out our fretboards. So that's our neck and our two fingerboards put through our planer thicknesser, just to get it down to the thickness we want and to get it nice and smooth as well. So we've got two fingerboards here. We're going to use this other fingerboard on a different project, but this is going to be the fingerboard that we're going to use on this particular Strat. And you might notice that we've attached this fingerboard to the neck blank when putting it through the planer thicknesser, and that's just because the piece was so thin it's not quite safe or doesn't work properly with a piece that thin trying to go through a thicknesser. So because we already know we have a nice flat neck blank here, we just attach the fingerboard to it to make it safer going through. And again, that's just masking tape and super glue to hold it together. So we'll be able to take that off, and we've got our fretboard ready to go and our neck ready to go, so we'll press on now with those.